Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hold Up, the show where we dive deep inside your childhood nostalgia, pull the movies from your past out to see if they hold up. Today, I'm holed up with just Kyle again because Andrew again another like felony. I'm assuming he's on the hook
Yeah,
for.
something to do with like national security matters of national security and the illegal pet trade and like cruelty to animals and causing bodily harm to an orifice of an animal this time.
See, and we were talking about this last week because you couldn't be on the show, and you got
Mhm.
acquitted for touching that goat, correct?
Yeah, I mean, like, I definitely did everything, but there was no way to prove that I did, even though I said I did. And because the case was brought on without evidence, it got tossed out. So I definitely deserved something bad to happen to me. But because of the criminal justice system and how it works, there wasn't enough evidence to convict. So the jury had to acquit.
Okay, that's fair. And I'm
The
sure
usual.
Andrew's in the same boat now too. I know he is off in Maryland, right? Isn't he close to you?
Is very close. We're gonna touch tips later.
Oh, nice. Can you do that inside of a federal penitentiary?
It's a conjugal visit, but I'm hoping to get conjunctivitis out of it though, so I can give it to him. He can have a really fun time, like in general. But I believe he does have syphilis right now.
Mm. Oh, okay. Well, just protect yourself is all I ask in that situation. And speaking of protection, we can be protected by small soldiers because that's what I watched and Kyle did not.
Refused to watch.
Refused to watch.
I've already I watched it very recently this last year, folks, and I had a deep loathing and visceral for that. So I didn't watch it. We're gonna do something new today,
Brand new.
where it's brand new. We're doing a very short episode. We're gonna speed through our blow by blow, and we're gonna see if Chase's memory of this movie can convince me to see if it holds up on my end. It's gonna be an interesting time.
So we already know Kyle is sitting on the I don't think it holds up train right now. So we're
Correct.
going to see if we can convince him otherwise. He is going to tell us a few things that he remembers and remembers from watching as an adult too. So we will get that like every normal episode, but we're going to try something new, try to shorten it up for you guys so we don't like sit there and babble on. But before we get started with Small Soldiers, Kyle, can you describe your energy level today using action figure terms?
Oh, so I am a top tier replica quality Batman figurine from like the Dark Knight Rises, like Christian Bale. And I was bought by an incredibly wealthy family for a 6 year old to play with. And my journey in life was supposed to be sit on a shelf and be admired and viewed and appreciated. And since I have been unboxed by this child, most of my accessories are lost. My face is disfigured because it got put on a metal heating element. I'm missing part of a leg, and I'm about to be thrown into a Goodwill box to go to Goodwill very soon, so my life can end.
So you're doing okay.
Doing all right.
Doing fine. I mean, that's how most
Yeah.
toys end up. If we are all toys in the box of the divine entity that controls our lives, that's pretty much what's going to happen at the end anyway. So,
Yes.
so it's not. So you're
Exactly.
just getting it out of the way. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what do you remember about Small Soldiers as a kid? Not necessarily what you
So
remember as an adult.
this is a movie that I, when I had one of my first sleepovers as a kid, this was the movie that we watched. And as a kid, I thought it was fucking sick. Like just the cool, like all the weapons that the Misfit toys, not the Misfit toys, you know which ones I'm talking about. The Beast toys, the animal toys, they had to figure out and contrive versus the other ones that the soldiers had. I loved both of them. And I was just like finding things around my home to give to my action figures to use as like makeshift weapons. And my mom and dad were just like, fuck, we shouldn't let them watch this movie because they were like finding like those like toothpicks and like fucking like maraschino cherry swords and shit, like foil everywhere. And
So
I
you
was
were
like,
the one that was putting the corn cob holders on shit and throwing them across the room.
yes, yes, correct. That is correct.
That is a very
And
dangerous thing about this movie is that
it is a very dangerous thing about this movie, indeed.
Do you remember playing the video game, the PlayStation game?
No, I didn't have a gaming system until I was fifth or sixth grade. Actually, sixth grade, I think. So I did not have any of that.
I had the game on PlayStation 1, and you play as Archer, and it was like a weird, like,
Mm,
3D third person platforming game that was really hard for a kid to kind of figure out, because back in those days we remember the jank of those platformers. You could never you never knew what you were jumping on or what you were getting a hold of. Like I just remember struggling with that, and I was playing on my brother's PlayStation. I remember he had to beat a couple of levels for me, that old tale as old as time where your older brother has to beat things for you. I'm sure you did that with your
for Keith, a
dumb little
couple
brother.
times.
Yeah.
A couple times with Keith, but we did diverge slightly on games that we both played in general. However, I definitely remember having to do that for him de temps en temps, as they say in French, from time to time.
Oh, look at you, fancy.
Yeah, I'm pretty fucking fancy. I'm really well cultured and traveled.
So
Idiot Chase.
I remember the game. I love this movie. Like, to your point, I was the same. I was like so obsessed with this movie because I thought it was so cool that toys could come to life. And I think that's every childhood fantasy. Every person that I've talked to either had nightmares or just like this fascination with, like, at night going to bed or something or coming home and their toys had just lived a life without them.
Yes.
It was big in Toy Story, which was before this in '96, and then it takes a little bit more of a evil turn here. But I was so fascinated with it. I had one of the Chip Hazard action figures that was like a replica size. It was really cool, and it even talked like Chip Hazard too, and said everything else is just a toy. It was pretty cool. Don't remember having any other toys from this, but I do remember they made a lot of toys with Small Soldiers. They really marketed that.
Yes,
of course.
They did. I remember those too.
And I didn't have any of those. I just had the Chip Hazard one, and I remember getting this movie. It came out in July, and I remember getting it on VHS for like Christmas that year, and I just watched it over and over and over and over again. I thought it was so funny too. And for some reason, a lot of that felt meta for me at the time. I was like, man, this is really in depth. This is like, it's like how I would feel about a Martin Scorsese film now. It's how I treated it as a kid.
Hey, say it like Andrew says it. It's Martin Scorsese.
Scorsese.
Martin Scorsese.
Oh, we miss Andrew. And then I had another thing from this movie that was huge. Do you remember the soundtrack?
Vaguely. Are you talking about the score or the soundtrack?
The actual soundtrack, because I'm gonna read you some of the songs on this soundtrack. War, we all know War. Another One Bites the Dust. The Stroke. Love is a Battlefield. So you gotta have some Pat Benatar in there.
Oh, that's true. Yes, yes, Pat Benatar.
Rock and Roll,
Patty V.
from Gary Glitter. Love Removal Machine by The Cold. I didn't know that one. My City Was Gone by The Pretenders. Surrender by Cheap Trick.
A great one.
Yeah, and Tom Sawyer by Rush. What a soundtrack. And I remember listening to that all the time. And I remember my dad stealing the soundtrack from me and putting it in his truck. And he was like listening to it all the time. Anytime he would like take me to school or pick me up from something, there would be War playing from his truck as he pulled up. It was like the soundtrack to '98 for my father. If he remembers that. I don't even know if he does. He was driving like a little blue Ranger.
Wow. What a great car, by the way. What a great truck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Blue Ford Ranger. Great shit.
You could beat the shit out of those trucks and they would just take it.
Kind of goes back to say what we said about Remember the Titans and about like certain parts of like Dr. Dolittle, like the sound, like soundtracks to a movie, like help you remember that movie and can honestly up at a letter grade in terms of overall performance, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
and Remember the Titans and Small Soldiers crafted their soundtrack. They just didn't throw popular music in there. I think Guardians of the Galaxy was the last one to do that. And I'm just talking about the first film. The second and third film, they're like, and they just started pumping random 70s music in it. But like and
it didn't really work. But the first one was quite good. I agree.
Right. Small Soldiers captured that because that was a big thing. The soundtrack was awesome. And it vibed with the toy setting and being in the heartland of America. No pun intended there. But do you think this movie was successful?
I do think it was mildly successful. I don't think it was like super great, but I think it did pretty well. I think they made a profit.
So this movie was made for $40 million, right? So
Okay. 1990 what?
98. So
Yeah, okay.
and and there's not a whole lot of CG in here. There are some CG
That's a lot of
elements,
stop motion, isn't it?
a lot of stop motion, a lot of practical effects. They actually made props and puppets with the animatronics. So there's a lot of stuff in there which can get expensive, especially when you're doing robotic animatronics for these toys. So hefty budget. 40 million is a pretty big budget for 98. And then of course it's directed by Joe Dante, which I didn't know until I was an adult. Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
He's done a lot of popular movies. Mainly what comes to mind is Gremlins for a lot of people. And he brought Stan Winston, who did the effects with Gremlins, Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Stan Winston did all the effects for this movie. So that's going to be a hefty price tag because they were both established as top tier director, top tier special effects coordinator. And then you also have a big cast. You know, I mean, Phil Hartman's going to be in everything, and Phil Hartman's great. Like, I don't have anything bad I could say about Phil Hartman. But
No.
big
Great.
cast. David Cross is in here. It's in Dennis Leary. Dennis Leary, David Cross, and Phil Hartman all sharing the screen at the same time. It's just kind of a weird thing to look at. But
R.I.P.
40 million, how much do you think it made?
I'm gonna guess it made healthy like 60 million.
So you're going to say it made 100 million at the box office.
Yeah.
It made 87 million worldwide. So
Ooh.
you would look,
Yikes.
and people would look at that and say 40 million budget, you made 87 million, you made a profit, right?
No, not for them.
Not for them, because you remember the marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
They said that this movie was not a bomb, nor was it really a failure, but they classified it as a failure for the amount of marketing that they put in. They barely made any money back off this film.
Wow.
Yeah, and it explains why there was never a sequel, because
Yeah.
for me,
No appetite.
right, like to me, like at the time, I just remember it was everywhere. All the kids were watching it, but you know,
Mm-hmm.
before I tell you my side of the story, I do want to tell you a couple of facts about this. Joe Dante did not want to do I don't want to
Interesting.
classify it as a family movie, but it is on the younger side of things. It is a PG-13
is,
movie, but kind of PG-ish, right?
Yeah.
So Joe Dante wanted to make it more almost
Adult?
R-rated. Yeah, he
Okay.
really
That would have been. See, now that would get me on board.
Yeah, and he actually was in the filming process when they told him no, that they wanted to market more towards younger audiences. And I think they did that mainly because they could sell toys.
Yeah, that's fair.
They were probably looking at the cash cow versus like a quality film being made. And like I said, Joe Dante did not want to do that. He kind of fought back and forth on it, but he finally just kind of cut some things here and there to make it more towards youthful audiences. But I wouldn't even say it's a very young audience movie. It still has its
No,
moments.
it's definitely a PG-13, like more young adult crowd.
You can get away with watching it at 8 and 9. It's fine because like it's intended for that audience.
That makes a little bit more sense now that they wanted this to be bigger and a little bit more topical and definitely more adult themed than it was. And I do think that would have made a big enough difference to definitely sweeten the deal for a lot of people, including myself.
Yeah.
It just felt a little, to me, it just felt a little flat when I watched it. It wasn't not entertaining, but it felt a little flat. I was kind of just waiting for like, I wanted to laugh at something. I wanted somebody to slip, I wanted an adult to slip on a piece of paper and just get impaled in the skull because there's a fucking toothpick on the ground.
So a fun fact too about it is Joe Dante, when he originally took on the process, wanted to get the entire Commando Elite to be voiced by the cast from Predator.
That would have been sick.
The crazy part is the Gorgonites are voiced by most of the cast from This Is Spinal Tap. So we almost got Predator versus This Is Spinal Tap
That's great.
in one movie. It's not a bad cast at all, and I feel like there's some great performances in here that really highlight some of this film for me. Obviously, this movie is trying to mock how we market toys to children and make them feel like market violence and eradicating an unknown enemy without knowing the enemy. It is very military corporate jargon. Something I didn't pick up as a kid because I was like, yeah, murder them all. Yeah, wipe those scumbags off the face of the earth. Like that kind of thing. And now as an adult, I'm like, wait a minute. Even though that they try to make the Commando Elite more of like the villains in this film because they're just going off their training and their programming, which is another thing for military altogether. Did you catch all that as an adult? Was that a little bit more jarring for you?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit more attention to like the fact that you follow your orders. You don't necessarily know why you're doing it, but you do it. Sure. But they were a little bit more, I don't know, like almost like a robot would be programmed to do something versus like free will and knowing the difference. And that's where I think it could have been a little bit more dynamic, I want to say, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it didn't live in that world for too long.
If they had the choice, if he had a choice to know what he was doing was wrong, then that would, and then still chose to do it, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. They're sentient, but they're not. They're just following their orders, which I guess we're going to do a very brief blow-by-blow, everybody. And are we ready to just kind of get into it and kind of dive into it?
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Oh, yeah.
So this movie starts off with a full-blown marketing campaign for Globex. And a little background about this is Globex is kind of, they're kind of like Disney. They're just kind of buying up anything and everything. And they're a former like military munitions kind of company, or they've dabbled in that.
Yeah, that's like expanded. It's expanding out. Like they're expanding their interests everywhere, essentially.
And they're kind of buying up everything. And there's one part where the legend Dick Miller, who plays a delivery driver here, says Globex is just going to own every company. Before you know it, we're all going to be employed by Globex. And I was like, that's an interesting story.
Funny because like back in the 90s and the like when we were predicting the future back in like the 20s to like the 70s, that 50-year time frame, they are grossly over imagining what we'd be able to accomplish at this point in future when they were looking at when the 1920s like to 2020 or the same thing in like the 70s till fucking like think of Alien, like the years 21 whatever the interstellar travel is.
Speaking of Dick Miller,
yeah, but like when it comes down to like where the 80s and 90s kind of foresaw things, they kind of hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Look at Jurassic Park. I know that we're not living with dinosaurs, but that's not the point of that movie.
Yeah, it's like don't play with God.
Don't play God. Don't play with things that you don't know the repercussions of, and you'll be humbled either by nature or by human nature or by whatever it is. So think of like AI when it comes to that kind of stuff. We don't really know what we've kind of let out of the bag at this point. It's not as, as powerful as we thought it would be yet, but that's not the point. Imagine a dumb AI taking over shit and then doing dumb shit that we can't control. Like that's the whole point. And this movie, just saying that, I mean, what does Amazon do right now, Chase?
Yeah.
I mean, they gobble everything up. Everything, and now everything's a subsidiary of another big company, right? Like look at all the film mergers happening, look at all the fucking business mergers and the cellular mergers. Everything is trying to like become a couple of corporations, and you can trace most of our food to 3 corporations as well. And a lot of the car companies are traced to 3 big car companies. There's no individualism anymore, really. It's just that, and that is something that was like a tiny line that was in there, but my problem was they didn't really harp on it too much after that.
No, they didn't.
And it makes sense. It makes sense from what you're saying though, because they had to make it a kids movie.
Yeah, so, and in the first quarter of this film, not only they show you the Globex branding, they show you all that, and then you get the Dick Miller line, and early on this film, you're like, holy shit, this corporation's taken over, and they're dabbling in kids' toys and military, and long story short, they get into this pitch meeting where Dennis Leary, the CEO of Globex, has bought Heartland Toys. And he's like, fuck it, we'll just get in the toy industry now. And David Cross is a part of this pitch meeting, and he always plays like a good nerdy character. And he's designed the Gorgonites. It's like a fun educational thing for kids. Like, hey, here's these quote unquote monsters are trying to get home to their homeland. More of an innocent fantasy type of play style. And his partner in crime, I can't remember who plays him. He's also an actor that was pretty popular in the 90s. And they're just in this pitch meeting. They're trying to keep their jobs. And he's like, this is Chip Hazard. He's a general in the army. And it's very much a military, no nonsense. We take orders from the chain of command and do whatever we need to wipe out the enemy. And during this pitch meeting, he shows Denis Leary this composite concept of the toy busting out of the packaging and saying everything else is just a toy or something like that, or I can't remember what he says.
Yeah, everything else is just a toy.
And he's like, "Can you whoa? Can you really do that?" And he's like, "No, he can't. It's a toy. They can't do that. That's just for concept." And he's like, "I'm really sick and tired of this. I'm sick and tired of all these toys. Kids want action, right?" Or like, what is he like? Or David Cross is like, "That seems a little violent." And he's like, "Don't call it violence. Call it action." And I thought that was a really good line, too, because he's like, kids love action. And what he's saying is kids love violence. As long as we preach violence to them, they're going to want, especially like young boys, we're going to want to play with the army figures. We're going to want to play with stuff that blows up and explodes and missiles. I mean, Batman toys. Like, I think about it. What was your favorite toys growing up?
Lego. Done.
Lego.
I did like GI Joe, but there were not like the GI Joe. There was like more of like there was like some historically accurate ones that I would like that Kmart sold that had like accessories and like World War II and Vietnam kind of shit. And those are the ones I was like fucking like, let's go. Like I love that. But mostly just Lego. I fucking loved Lego. I still love Lego. But like Lego. Done.
Yeah, and that's just the groundwork for this movie. So it's really hooked me early on because it is really real and very strange and kind of upsetting to see how you market to kids. Denis Leary even says a line, "This will be the toy that separates mommy and daddy from their pocketbooks." And it's just it's so malicious, but so believable. And Denis Leary does a great job just playing a prick in this movie, which he always does a great job playing a prick. We flash forward, and we've got this kid named Alan who, through nothing but commentary throughout this movie, has a troubled past, like he burned down his old school or something, but
something fucking weird.
He never does anything in this movie, nor do the way he acts to make you think that he's an asshole child or anything. Even though everyone else treats him like he is, it's weird.
It's very open-ended for his like, why the fuck is he like this?
Yeah, because he's very kind and he's just a normal kid, and he's working. I guess he's about 15, 16 maybe. He's working in his dad's toy shop, and his dad wants the toys to be old school, not Tinker toys, but like kind of 1950s style toys.
Yeah,
he
doesn't like the technology that's been like into toy. Like, there's no like inventive imagination with the toys now. They do everything for you, kind of thing. Like, it's very much similar to like the video games argument that like, are video games like a toy, and it goes along those kind of lines. Where he doesn't like the technology, he doesn't like the newfangled stuff. The old stuff makes you use your imagination. That kind of argument.
He's working in this kind of toy shop. It doesn't seem like it's doing very well, and Dick Miller, the driver, shows up to give him a shipment, and he sees the Commando Elite. And this is before the toys are even prepared to launch. And before all this, to make the Commando Elite and the Gorgonites, because Denis Leary was like, the Gorgonites, these hideous monsters, are going to be the enemy. And whatever. And while they were like, oh, we need chips to make them talk, David Cross's partner has access to the Globex system, so he's able to look for military chips in surplus.
Yes.
Which is like,
this is where it starts to lose me a little bit, but go on.
Yeah, so he's like, his dumb idea is to put military anti-air defense chips, not just any old chips. He puts anti-air defense military chips into these toys. You can see where this is going.
Let me just go ahead and pop this in here. They might as well just be fucking potato chips. Like, there is no world in which anti-air missile defense software creates a sentient being. Done. End of story. Nothing else. That's where this is one of the biggest things that lost me with this movie. It doesn't make any sense, Chase. I know it's for kids, but like that doesn't make any goddamn sense
Yeah,
at all.
a microchip is not a brain. It doesn't work that way. It's only transmitting signals to other parts. You have to have so much working technology to make anything work. Think about if we just stole a bunch of military chips, then we can just create our own defense system. That's not how that works, you know? So, like,
No,
I
that's
agree
not how
with
that
you.
works. Exactly.
And I get this is a kid's movie, and they're trying to dumb it down for that kind of generation and just be like, well, what if? So whatever. Like as Andrew would always say, suspend disbelief. So
Yeah, but I can't. I have a hard time suspending disbelief on this one. I'm trying, but it's hard.
speeding along
Shit.
here, just to try to tell you, or just to try to go through this blow by blow. Obviously, Alan ends up with the toys. He takes them. His dad's out of town, so he takes them. He's like, "I'll sell them before Dad gets in, and I'll actually make the store a little money." So in his eyes, he's like, "These are cool toys. We're gonna sell them." And as the time he's putting those up, Kirsten Dunst, who's becoming quite the child celebrity at this point, shows up in
Yes.
this movie
Wasn't this right after Jumanji?
right at the same time. I think the same year, maybe after a little bit. She just got done with Interview with the Vampire, but she shows up with her brother. It's his birthday, so she's taking him toy shopping. He doesn't want to be in that toy shop. She's like, "Well, we're here." And so he sees the Commando Elite and the Gorgonites, and he wants those for his birthday. She's like, "Save me 2 of those," right? Um,
Yep.
and I think at one point Alan takes Archer, who's the leader of the Gorgonites, home and leaves the rest of them up and puts them on shelves. All hell breaks loose in the middle of the night. The Commando Elite show up, bust out of their packaging. They're funny, like little commandos. Like you get like kind of your stereotypical like military people, like you're in the mud kind of Marine. Not a lot of thought processing in these guys, but you got like kind of like an enforcer, you've got an intelligence officer, you got a little bit of everything. The main one is obviously Chip Hazard, played by Tommy Lee Jones, who does a great voice acting here. All the voice acting, all the voice acting is great in this film from all the toys, even the Gorgonites. And what's funny is Joe Dante has a thing in his movies where he alludes and does Easter eggs to other films. So Chip Hazard gives a patent-like speech to his toys in front of a puzzle American flag, and I laughed audibly. I thought that was actually a really good touch. I didn't get that as a kid because no 7-year-old is going to watch Patton, but it made me laugh audibly now. There's quite a few movie references here that I'll keep coming back to, but that's one of the first that I remember, and I'm sure there's more that I didn't catch. But they end up tearing up the shop, tearing the shit out of the shop. Alan's also smitting with Kirsten Dunst as they leave too. So Archer wakes up and he starts using Alan's computer at night to try to find Gorgon. That's what he's programmed to do, is find his home world. In the midst of all this, he looks at Alan. This is another clever thing he does. He looks at Alan, and he has the Terminator kind of screen where he's scanning the environment, which I thought was a nice touch for Terminator. And he sees Alan, and it says, and he's sleeping, and it just says offline. I thought that was pretty funny. More or less, what happens is Alan wakes up, kind of realizes that Archer is sentient. And there's a lot of shit happens, and Archer's just, we got to get back to the Gorgonites. We got to get back to the Gorgonites. Well, Alan ends up going back to the store, and the store is wrecked. It is destroyed, and all the toys are missing, Gorgonites and the Commando Elite. Can't find them anywhere. He kind of is pissed off because his dad's going to blame him for the store, so he puts aside the fact that all these toys are sentient. He doesn't really register that early on in this film. Kirsten Dunst comes by to pick up the toys. They're no longer there. So she just ends up helping him put the store back together. His dad comes in, and the store is completely put back together, but still gets mad at him because the mask on the sailboat in the middle of the store breaks. And I was like, fuck you. You're the reason he set his school on fire.
That's correct.
But it plays the role of his dad's just like never going to be pleased with anything he does. So great. Father of the year there. And Kirsten Dunst's dad is Phil Hartman. She lives right next to Alan. Alan does do a brave thing and just ask her out.
Yeah.
He just kind of shoots his shot, which never happens in any of these movies. Did you notice that?
Did I notice that it was in the movies? I mean, kind of, sort of.
Well, like,
But
it
is
always
something that
takes the character arc, right? Like, it takes the whole movie for the loser kid to ask the hot girl out, right? Like, that's kind of the arc, and it happens at the end of the movie most of the time. No, he meets her and he goes, "You want to go out sometime?" And I was like, "Good on you, dude." Like, she obviously says no. She's dating the high school quarterback who is every 90s high school quarterback with his frosted tips and his moped.
Yep. Moped. Ew.
But she denies him, but she talks to him, and it's like it goes fine. It's like, well, that's how you handle rejection and have confidence. Weird. But and all this stuff starts happening. The Commando Elite now are looking for Archer, which Alan has. So they set up tracking devices and they start following him. At one point in the middle of the night, the Commando Elite storm into Alan's house because they watched him go home, and they end up capturing Archer, and they put him in this weird little hanging system with some cords, and they're going to drop him down the garbage disposal.
That's right. I forgot about that. That was a good touch.
And I want to make note here. So the Commando Elite even walk into Alan's garage, and they see like all the tools in Alan's garage, and they use those in incredibly creative ways. And I thought this was probably the A+ mark of this movie. And they did all this stuff practically too. So they build like all kinds of unique weapons out of just everyday household objects and tools. They find a turkey carver and kind of factor it into like a dual sword at one point. But they're holding Archer hostage and trying to get information from him. And Alan comes down because apparently the Gorgonites somehow escaped, and he's wanting Archer to tell him where they're at. Alan comes down, diffuses the situation, saves Archer, gets his hand cut, but ends up putting one of the toys down the disposal, which was gnarly because he rips his legs off.
Yep.
And everybody retreats. Alan's parents come in, and I don't know why kids do this, where kids just immediately try to tell the truth in this situation.
Yeah.
Hey, the toys were talking to me and trying to kill this toy.
Yeah, you fucking idiot. Yeah, no.
Do you think his parents take that?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no. They say that didn't happen. You're gonna go back to boarding school if you don't like shut your damn mouth. And as he's doing all that, the Commando Elite drag Nick Nitro Nick Nitro shows up he's the toy that ended up in the disposal. He ends up dying in front of them. And they were like, we will avenge his loss.
Yeah.
Alan ends up calling Globex. And this I found funny because it's a reverse of times now. Alan's talking to Globex, and it's this lady just with a prepared speech. And he's like, hey, I have a thing about your toys. Your toys did this and it wrecked my dad's shop and tried to hurt me or injure me. And she's like, the toys do not do that. Like, the Commando Elite are designed to take out the Gorgonite scum. And he's like, can I just talk to an AI bot? Which I thought is hilarious because now we're talking to AI bots wanting to talk to human beings. It's an inverse of what's going on in 2026. But they end up putting him through to a voicemail. So he leaves a voicemail, which ends up getting in the hands of David Cross, which will come into play later. At this point, Alan realizes, too, he's like, oh, trash for some reason. And he goes back to his dad's store with Archer. And
That's right, yes.
And he finds the Gorgonites in the dumpster. They were able to hide. And this is where we find out that they're programmed to hide and not fight the whole time. And the Commando Elite are programmed to kill them.
Search and destroy.
That's all well and good because they're playing with the idea that the chips are just going off programming, right? There's a scene where David Cross and his partner go in because they realize you put military chips in toys. What does that even mean? He's like, it's just a chip. which to your point is exactly how that would just go. They go into this kind of lab and they're talking to one of the creators of the military chips, and he's like, it's all about their programming. The programming is what is pushing them. It's not about the chip itself, which is interesting enough, right? Because that's exactly what they're trying to get at is programming. A missile inherently is not dangerous, but when we program it to be dangerous, it's on us. So it's like it kind of raises that moral question. And we talked about this a couple of times. They keep bringing up moral dilemmas that I wish that they would dive a little bit more into. Is like that, because that's all about.
Or just pick one.
Right,
Or
pick
pick
one.
one.
It's like,
And then get more in depth.
are you dangerous because you designed the program, or are you dangerous because you push the button? Because either way, you have blood on your hands. And that's kind of what they're getting at here. With this whole process, too, it's like the chips don't exactly give you a personality, though. And all these toys have personalities.
And this is my point, though. This is what I'm saying. Like, it just doesn't hold up to me that like, this missile defense software that uses incredibly complex mathematical equations to intercept either an airplane or a fighter jet or whatever is going to give somebody, some inanimate object, the ability to speak in sentences, have thoughts, make decisions, have reasoning. It's a fucking piece of software. It's like if you put the adaptive cruise control in your fucking car into, like, I don't know, dude, like into a fucking G.I. Joe, and then being like, it would just do that thing. It would just walk as fast as whatever is walking in front of it is, and then hold that distance.
Yeah.
So in this case, like, unless there's something for it to intercept and kill, it's not going to do that, and it's not going to like make them speak. It just was, for me, poorly thought out. I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
Yeah, the idea of the toys fighting and being sentient was fun in this whole movie, and the interactions between them and the Commando Elite being military driven, where we have orders to eliminate this enemy and we will do that at all cost. That's fine. I have no issue with that, and I actually thought it was a good touch, and especially as an adult, I'm like, there's a lot there, you know. But like you said, it's like they didn't kind of pick a lane. My issue, more or less, is they just tried to explain it away as military chips, and that's just go back to the Chucky days. Have like a ritual and being struck by lightning. I can accept that a lot more for whatever reason. But Alan takes the Gorgonites home. Commando Elite tap the phone line, which is, I guess, also in the chips. Tap the phone line and hear him talking to Kirsten Dunst, and he's like, oh, he has a love interest. So what do we do now? Let's hold her hostage until he delivers the Gorgonites to us. So it leads to this whole thing where it's basically our main climax of the film. The Commando Elite, in a funny scene, because Phil Hartman has been working on a new satellite dish and a big screen TV, wanting the best entertainment money can buy, and he turns the TV on, and it's still analog, so it's all fuzzy compared to today's standards. So it was really dated there, but it was so funny to watch. He's like, "Oh no, the chroma's off. I'll have to fix that." But
that's so funny.
He has Dolby Digital sound and all this, and he was typically your 90s dad that just hated his job and hated his life, but wanted a massive entertainment system. I'm sure your dad was the same way.
To a degree, yeah. More with music.
But there's at one point where they slip some sort of sleeping pill in both him and his wife's gin and tonic. And I was like, well, that could probably kill them. And they're unconscious. Maybe. And they slip up into Kirsten Dunst's room and find her like shelf full of like these dolls, these Barbie dolls. They're called something else for copyright reasons, but they're basically like different forms of Barbie dolls. Well, they Frankenstein them into a mutant army just to have extra help, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and it kind of brought me back to like the Misfit toys in Toy Story.
Yeah, very much so.
Sid's house. Yeah.
And they have like little razor blades on their arms and stuff. It's kind of cool. Like, I actually really enjoyed the scene as a kid, and as watching it as an adult, I was like, oh, that's sick. Like, there's plenty of Frankenstein elements to this, which, again, another movie reference by Joe Dante. they fix even one of the Gorgonites who was torn up into a Frankenstein-like monster as well. So Bride of Frankenstein, all that good stuff is mentioned by Joe Dante. But we get to a point now where they have the army, they send a videotape over into his window of them holding Kirsten Dunst hostage because they were able to just overwhelm her, I guess, and tie her down.
I'm like, I feel like I'd be able to kick them into the next zip code if I needed to.
The dolls somehow got a hold of her real fast and tripped her, and then they were just able to just pile onto her. I don't think that they would weigh enough to hold her down, but whatever, we're here. But they set her boyfriend on fire, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, didn't kill him, but
yeah, he took his pants off and ran. But that was kind of funny, and that was like something more of what I wanted to see. You know, I'm a big Chucky guy. Like, I love Chucky. I think it's funny. It treats that sentient toy thing in the right way, which we were talking about a little earlier. If we went rated R and horror movie, this has a lot more legs. Because in Chucky, he's using regular-sized knives, and the soldiers are using radiators and stuff in this movie, and a lot of stuff that could be really damaging. And they set the boyfriend on fire, but it's just his pant leg, and he's able to run down the stairs, take his pants off, and he's fine. He just keeps running. But they have her captive, and so now they have to fight. And this is where Alan talks to Archer and his team. He's like, we got to fight, or you'll die, and I'll die, and Kirsten will die. And it was like, no, that's not, you're all going to be fine. So Alan devises a plan where he puts a tape recorder in a box that records all the Gorgonites saying, no, please don't. And he puts it on the doorstep of the house, and the soldiers are coming down to blow the box up, and they basically stick like dynamite or something. I don't know where they got. No, it was like firecrackers. Some kind of
fucking plastic explosive. Yeah, who knows?
They ordered C4 out of a CPenny catalog. So they blow the box up and see that it was just a tape recorder. And while they were doing that, Alan snuck upstairs and freed Kirsten Dunst. And while he was freeing her, he gets surrounded and just attacked by the dolls. And then Kirsten Dunst, using a majorette baton, just starts beating the shit out of all of them. What's so funny is I was watching this movie while my cousins were in town one time as a kid, and my cousin Robin walked in while I was watching it, and she was a majorette captain. And she was like, you know, those batons can do a lot of damage, right? And then walked away.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
I was thinking for a little bit, like, holy shit, did she beat the shit out of people with a baton? And I never got the answer from that. I probably
She probably had one fall on her head once.
Yeah. I probably need to ask her about that, if she actually hit anybody with a baton, because she seemed very confident that she could kill somebody with one. They escape, and the parents are coming to terms with everything, and we get this all-out war now. As the parents are talking about this, David Cross and his partner show up to tell them about the military chips and toys, and then that's when the toys themselves start playing War, which great song for this, and start just attacking the family. I mean, they've got Tonka trucks that they've outfitted with razor blades, and my favorite thing is the corn holders. And there was a vicious fucking scene where they shoot
slingshot him.
Yeah, and they shoot Alan in the leg with him, and you watch the corn holders go in his leg, and they go from his hip all the way down to his ankle, and I was like, oh my God, that would actually really hurt and probably put you in a lot of pain, and not to mention tetanus and all that. But they shoot him up. There's a bunch of back and forth. They're able to get on Brad's moped that he left. I don't know why he did, and didn't just ride off his moped when he ran away from the home. But they get into this chase with this moped, and the toys are somehow using a Tonka truck, like a battery-powered Tonka truck, to catch up with a moped. Kyle, I mean, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah. No, it definitely don't do it.
But they're firing like little saw disc and stuff. It was really cool that what they were able to manufacture was kind of fun and creative. And they get into this scene and they're able to jump something and it explodes the Commando Elite somehow. David Cross tells them about the idea about the EMP blast frying the chips. So what they decide to do is go over to one of the houses and just turn on all the electronics, and then they're just going to blow the transformer up. Great.
Which I don't know if that actually works like that, though.
I don't think so. I don't know, though, enough to tell you that it couldn't be possible. But
yeah, exactly.
Because it's a small EMP. It's not like a... Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to kind of explain. Houses are on fire. Things are exploding left and right. So and toys are sentient toys. I would take the EMP as probably the most believable thing in this movie. But anyway, we get into this final battle with Archer and Chip Hazard on top of the pole as Alan is trying to blow the transmitter to send out the EMP blast. And at one point, Chip kicks Archer off the telephone pole, and that gives Alan enough time to grab him and put him in the transformer, which explodes and sends out the EMP, which fries all the chips everywhere. And I forgot to mention how they created the Barbie dolls. I almost didn't mention this. Is they took Nick Nitro's chip out, the dead soldier, and they were able to, I don't know, they were able to put it in this thing, and it transmitted the chip power to all the toys that don't have chips in them. It was weird, dude. So they really shouldn't have been a thing. And also, it went from like 30 of them, which makes sense, to at the end 1,000 Barbie dolls. I was like, I don't think she had that many in her room.
I don't think so either. Yeah, no.
But the EMP goes off, blows everything apart, blows up the homes, everything with the blast, but kills all the toys. And it cuts to them waking up the next day, and they're cleaning up everything. Alan's looking for the Gorgonites. He can't find them. And Dennis Leary shows up with his assistant, and she just starts writing checks to everybody. And they're pissed off. They're like, look at my home and the damage and all this other stuff. You don't have a check that could pay for that. And he hands them a piece of paper, and they're like, well, I guess you do. So I was always curious what type of money he put on that check. I mean, it had to be millions, right?
For sure. 100%.
Especially in the 90s, like I know things were cheaper then, but there's definitely millions of dollars on that check. I mean, he writes it like it's nothing because Globex owns everything. And then he picks up one of the toys and says, why don't you call the military about this? And I know a bunch of, what does he say? He says something very derogatory. He says something about, I know a bunch of Somali pirates or something that would love these things.
Yep.
So they're just going to sell it to the military. There's also a scene here where Phil Hartman steps on one of the toys, and it's framed just like Terminator in the opening sequence where the Terminator steps on the human skull, except it's Phil Hartman stepping on a plastic toy skull. I thought that was fun. And we also forgot to mention at the big battle scene, Chip Hazard rides in on a helicopter playing Flight of the Valkyries. So a full-on Apocalypse Now moment,
Apocalypse Now, baby.
So the film references were fun to catch this time around. I really enjoyed that, and I thought that was a nice touch that I would never caught as a kid. But that wraps it up, except for the fact that the Gorgonites are safe under the satellite dish that Phil Hartman's loved. The ending shot is Alan sending them off on their way to Gorgon.
There you go.
And then we get another movie reference because one of them says, I hope we don't hit an iceberg. So Titanic reference to finish this movie off. Did I do a good job, Kyle? Did I explain it good enough to you?
Yes. We hit the important bits. I remembered some of it. But I don't know. It just doesn't really do it for me. Even with the really good blow by blow that hit all the stuff that we wanted to hit, you hit on the parts that were cool. Again, like, it didn't pick a lane. It was hamstrung by the fact that it was supposed to be something it wasn't. And usually we say, like, put that aside. But it's the fact that, like, the chip thing, like how they were doing what they were doing to be like toys that were like sentient, it just doesn't make any sense as an adult. And I'm like, how, like, the whole time I was watching it, I was like, how is his face moving? How is it? How does he have thought? How do they like? How do they know this intrinsically? We can't even get AI now to do that, dude. I'm like, it just, I'm not. Where's the chip go? How is this thing moving by itself? What motor system is in there that's so minute? Like if that's the case, you're talking about shit that's like very fine-tuned machinery and like fucking like computers and like 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 robotic surgery, remote surgery kind of stuff. Like I'm just no, I'm not buying it. I can't. I tried. I can't.
Yeah, it's for me, especially talking to you. I know you say it doesn't hold up. I've been the last 2 days grappling on if I think this holds up or not. Because on one hand, you have all the stupidity of like why would you put expensive ass military chips in toys? No one would approve that. There's just so many layers you have to ignore to get to the meat of the matter here. And the fact of the matter is those chips do not work that way. They're not just sentient little brains. They treat these chips like they're brains. They're not. That's not how that works. And I can suspend that disbelief if all the other stuff comes together, and it doesn't, because again, he orders these military chips. That would be so expensive to put in toys that you will never make your money back off of them. And that's not what businesses do, especially when I like what they do with Globex and owning everything. I like what they do with all the Dennis Leary stuff and like, oh, we're just going to buy everything and just make a profit and sell you everything. And I'm okay with even putting military chips in toys. I think that's a fun concept, but they just don't, they just kind of go, well, this is what happens and we're off. And it's like, I'd rather you just kind of take that part out and just make the toys evil somehow. I'd rather it be a supernatural reason that they're sentient.
Exactly. I'd be able to believe that a lot more.
Yeah. But there's a flip side of it where they do mention some things that we're dealing with now, which is almost, 30 years later? So they did hit some very interesting topics. And I thought the practical effects were good. I thought it was very creative, the way that the toys fought. The voice acting is very strong here. The acting in general is not bad at all. You got Dick Miller, who, God, I love Dick Miller. Always playing the same kind of like little lackey everywhere he goes. The movie references are fun as an adult. So for me, it's hard, but I was entertained enough to say it holds up. But barely. I'm talking barely holds up. Like you can make a case for it not holding up easily. Because I did get a little bored with this. It does run a little long too. And there's a lot of like flopping back and forth. And I know in our blow by blow, it kind of sounded like I was all over the place. This movie's all over the place.
It is. It really is.
But I'm gonna say it holds up. Are you gonna stand firm with it doesn't?
Oh, for sure. There's no. I don't. I know all the reasons that redeem it for you. I'm not hitting on those. I'm just saying like it just doesn't make any sense as an adult. Like I'm not gonna watch it again.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put it on. I'm not gonna like have it on. I might not even show my kids this one. Like just because it's, I don't know. If it was like a like a haunted toy, something supernatural, but then that would get rid of kind of the whole like military industrial complex point of view. I just don't think the idea was executed well, and there was nothing for them back then that would like, oh, this is an autonomous thing. It does it. We don't really even have that now, to the point where it can like something can become its own thing from a technological point of view. If it was like a supernatural point of view, sure, because we can't quantify that. There's nothing like, it's like you automatically have to suspend your disbelief. This
right.
one, they were trying to put too much technicality in it. It just, any movie that tries to get too technical, and it's not like, not like super pedantic, but like it just doesn't make any sense, the technicalities that they're trying to introduce. I won't be a fan of it. And again, acting, set design, the toys themselves, great. I just can't get over the idea of it. The whole time I remember watching this, I was like, how are they doing that? Like, how do they jump? what are what machinery are they using to jump right now?
Right.
How are they talking?
Right. And
Why do all of them have different voices? Like what if it like from what you said, Chase, like it just doesn't like add up. It doesn't all these different things that they're trying to do. It's just it doesn't work.
yeah. And it's like there's individual parts that work, but like I said, if I want to go see a killer toy movie, I'm just going to go watch Child's Play. I do say the reason I also kind of lean towards it holds up is because of the, like I tell you, it's a dangerous thing that we all do, is the nostalgia here helps me a little bit. So this will always hold a special place in my heart. But like I said, if I'm probably maybe one of the few, if we had a bunch of people on the show and I'm sure a lot of them would say it doesn't hold up. What would you give it on IMDb?
Uh, give it like a 5.6.
Okay, that's fair. I was gonna actually give it a 5.7. So
wow. Okay.
yeah, and that's for me. That's like not hold up territory, depending on what we're looking at. It's actually a 6.3 on IMDb. How do you feel about that?
We weren't far off. I think for people that don't get hung up on like little pedantic things like me, because I get hung up on a lot of that shit, I think that's totally fair. I don't think that's a very understood, like, oh, I didn't think of it like that. It's like, was it entertaining? Sure. Cool. 6.3. That's not a hateful score. And it's not a hateful movie. I just can't get over those particular aspects of it. And it's just not for me. But I don't think that's a terrible IMDb score in general.
Yeah, you know what we do around here. We reach into your childhood nostalgia, pull the movies from your past out. Today we pulled out Small Soldiers, and we're split 50-50 today. It'd be interesting to see what Andrew says, but he's in federal penitentiary, so we probably won't get any results from him for a very long time. Kyle, it's football season, right?
Unfortunately.
Your favorite time of year. I know Andrew's giddy to come back on the show for this one, but next week we will be kicking off college football season with Friday Night Lights, which I'm very excited to see because this is a very adult movie that somehow we watch as kids. I'm very interested to kind of dive into that one. In the meantime, you can go to our social media, look at everything that we've got coming down the pipe. Go listen to past episodes too, some with Andrew on it, some with Kyle on it, some with some guests. We have guests coming your way in the future. We're starting our next season. I think we're on season 8 now. Can you believe that?
Yeah, season 8. Let's go, baby.
Season 8. So we're starting with our holiday stretch that we do every year. So we've got Friday Night Lights, a couple of football movies coming up. We're going to enter October. We're going to hit some horror. And then we're going to do our favorite thing that we started last year, which is Die Another November. I know you love that. So we got some James Bond films on the way. So stick with us, guys. We appreciate all your support. If you want to continue to support the show, follow us on Patreon so Kyle can pay back his child support. And we'll see you guys all next week for Friday Night Lights.
Boo.